A lot of the time, there are issues around deliveries where there is not proper communication to consumers about the expectations on when the delivery will take place. So we get complaints against regarding that. Sometimes the product that they saw on the catalog or on the web does not actually meet their expectation. In terms of the CPA, for example, if you buy in terms of a catalog, a product that you have not had the opportunity to inspect, you can complain when you get that product, it doesn't fit your requirements or doesn't correlate with how they had advertised it. So we do get complaints around that. And in some few instances, we get suppliers that are rogue suppliers that are just taking consumers' money and are not delivering the product, just plainly running away with the consumers' money. We know the big online suppliers. I mean, those are cooperative and we are able to resolve the complaints. But we do have a few ones that are not local, where it's very difficult to then find them and engage them, and that's where consumers lose their money. One of the important things that we do is we educate our suppliers and we help them to comply with the code. Where we see that there's a trend that they are struggling, and at some point that was the issue with MTN. But what they did, they appointed a new team and they also put us in touch with a senior person within the organization who then made a commitment that they will implement improvements. And one of the things that they did is they also adopted our complaints handling system to ensure that they receive the complaints and then they deal with them on time. So we are very happy with that. We are not worried about them anymore. Last year, they had attracted about 1,144 complaints, but it has gone down by half now. We are sitting with about 744. In terms of the CPA, if you buy a product that is defective, you have 6 months within which to return that product to a supplier for 3 things to happen. Either for that item to be repaired, replaced, or for you to get a refund. The CPA is very clear that that is up to the choice of the consumer. You choose whether you want a replacement, a repair, or a refund. It's not up to the supplier. We do see some suppliers saying we will only repair or we will only refund. No, it is your choice as a consumer which of those 3 options you prefer. Still seeing quite a lot of timeshare complaints, and the main issue is the inability of consumers to cancel those contracts. And because a lot of those contracts are sold through direct marketing, which means somebody approaches you rather than you approaching them, you have 5 business days to cool off, which means to cancel that contract without any penalty. But we do find some timeshare suppliers frustrating the ability of consumers to cancel. We have one supplier who says that you enter into the agreement in Joburg, but for me to cancel, you need to deliver registered mail to our head office in Cape Town. Or we do not accept email cancellations because we cannot verify that it is you who sent that email on that day. So we find that quite problematic as a process to frustrate the consumer to cancel. So consumers must make sure that they send out that cancellation within the 5 business days. Doesn't say the supplier has to receive it. You have to initiate that cancellation within the 5 business days. We've reported that 64% of cases were positive for the consumer, because remember that not in all instances is the consumer right. So we think that is quite successful. A lot of our complaints is dealt with telephonically and by email because it would cost the consumer and it will delay the process if we said we have to have a meeting with you and the supplier in one room No, we don't do that. So in very, very few circumstances, less than 1%, do we actually have to sit in a room with a supplier. And that happens usually when the supplier is his approach, is litigation, and they have attorneys and they want to argue things. But very few of those do we have to sit around the table, less than 1%. 99% it's email and telephonic, and we are able to resolve the matter. Suppliers who don't cooperate, every month we send statistics and trends to the regulator, the National Consumer Commission, and it's up to them because they are the ones who are responsible for enforcing the act. And they would then decide whether to continue with investigating the supplier. $690. Most of the big ones are on board. So it's a very small guys and a few big ones, but most of your large retailers and wholesalers are on board. So when we say 690, we're counting at holding level. We haven't broken down in terms of the companies that are under that particular supplier. So in that regard, we are happy with the progress that we are making in bringing everybody on board. And those that do not want to come on board, we report to the regulator, the commission, because it is a contravention of the CPA not to comply with the code if you are required to be part of the code. I've given an example where one supplier who refused to cooperate with the Motor Industry Ombudsman was actually fined 100,000 by the National Consumer Tribunal, because the tribunal saw that as an aggravating factor to say these schemes have been put in place for you to resolve the matter without being escalated to the commission, and for the fact that you refused to cooperate at that level, then you can be fined 10% of annual turnover. And that ruling is beginning to show suppliers that the tribunal and the NCC are serious, that try and resolve at the ombud level, and if not, then it can be escalated.